I'm Alex Haugland.
And I'm Amy Haugland.
And this is our 1965 Lotus Type 26 Elan.
Welcome to Everyday to Exotic.
Off we go.
In the street, oh, that's my Mazda. By the time I had old Jody in my hand, I finally caught up with Joe this morning. Oh, yes, I did. Oh, listen up. I finally caught up with old Joe this morning. Oh, yes, I did. Oh, listen up.
There's over 200 cars in the Haugland collection.
And it just keeps growing.
Our goal is to try and drive them all.
Each episode, we'll talk about the car's history, showcase its design and features, and dive into its mechanicals.
Then we'll take it out on a drive through the beautiful roads of Oregon.
Finally, we'll rate our car to see where it stands in the Haugland rank. In this episode of Everyday to Exotic,
Amy gives some driving advice.
nothing is protecting you from that impact. So just don't get hit. Alex demonstrates how to break into an Elan.
There's not really much sense in locking it. And we enjoy one of the best driver's roads in Oregon. It feels very natural to be behind the wheel of this car.
Yes. All this and more on today's episode of Everyday to Exotic.
But first, let's take a look into the Elan's history. The first Lotus car emerged in 1948 as the Mark I, which was a modification of the diminutive Austin 7, built into a trials racing car by Anthony Colin Bruce Chapman, better known as Colin Chapman, while he was still a student at the University of London. With the prize money won with that first car, he developed the Mark II, again based on the Austin 7, fitted with an engine sourced from an English Ford. This made it a car suitable for trials racing, as well as also racing on a track.
It was through this ongoing progression of cars that Colin Chapman evolved his knowledge of car construction. With his love of racing, the focus remained on building small, lightweight cars with excellent handling and small but powerful engines, eventually leading to the founding of Lotus Engineering Limited in 1952.
The company continued to develop race cars, selling them to private racers. Meanwhile, Team Lotus began campaigning cars in Formula race classes with quite a bit of success. Racing proved expensive, however. Therefore, in order to increase car sales, they chose to build cars like the Lotus 7, which could be driven legally on the street, as well as being ideally suited for club racing on the track. This paved the way for Lotus to explore building cars intended more exclusively for street use rather than primarily for racing. This shift eventually led to the restructuring of Lotus in 1959 into the Lotus Group of Companies, with Lotus Cars Limited taking on the production of cars for customers.
The first of these road cars was the Lotus Type 14 Elite, which one day will get its own episode on this channel. That car was followed in 1962 by the Lotus Type 26 Elan. To keep the cars affordable, Lotus offered them in a mostly assembled kit form in order to avoid the purchase tax that was levied in Britain on complete automobiles. Lotus also offered pre-assembled cars for sale at the same time.
The Elan marked a significant shift for Lotus, as it was Lotus's first real commercial success for a road car. It was the first Lotus road car to use a steel backbone chassis, shaped roughly like an X, to support a lightweight fiberglass body, allowing the small two-seat roadster to have a total weight of approximately 1,500 pounds. This was coupled with a modified English Ford four-cylinder engine fitted with a twin-cam head of Lotus's design, producing significantly more power than the stock version of that engine.
The rest of the drivetrain was also derived from the English Ford lineup, with a modified rear differential converting it from a solid live axle to work for a Lotus-designed independent suspension system. By building the car around these mass-produced components, Lotus was able to build a car that was less expensive to develop and construct, leading to very few mechanical parts that Lotus had to produce that were unique to their car. The end result was that the commercial success of the Elan helped fund Lotus's dominance in formula racing for the next 10 years.
The Elan's incredible handling and lightweight also allowed it to serve as an excellent car for racing on a track, with the even lighter weight variant sold as a Type 26R being offered to meet demand of those who wanted to race their Elans. Production of the Elan progressed through 5 main series, with a significant redesign in 1965 for the Series 3, which featured a Type 36 Coupe and a Type 45 Roadster.
Our Lotus Elan is a Type 26 Series 2 car. This is one of 2 Type 26 Elans in the collection, and one of the few cars where we have his and hers examples. This was a locally owned car which the previous owner purchased used in the 1970s, and we acquired it from him about 3 years ago. Since then, we have had the car repainted, the interior redone, and we've made a few mechanical repairs and changes. So we mentioned in the history that we have his and hers Elans. This is the hers.
So it is an interesting body in a lot of ways because the vast majority of it is fiberglass. This does have a steel backbone that runs through the entire thing, and so it's an X shape. You have your engine and your front wheels attached essentially to the arms of the X, one inside, one set outside, and then a central backbone that runs down the transmission tunnel, and then it goes out to support the rear suspension and the rear wheels. So overall, very little steel in the body of the car. Most of it is this fiberglass shell. This was not a car built with safety in mind at all. It was built to be as light as possible. That means that most of it that you would normally have be steel on other cars, like the bumpers, those are fiberglass. They don't really provide any protection of any kind. They just sort of fill out the shape at the front and are bumpers. In this car, in general, the windshield frame is also fiberglass. The vast majority of the shell of this car is made out of fiberglass, and thus the weight is kept down quite a bit. While at the same time, Colin Chapman did a fantastic job setting up the suspension and the proportions of the car to have really good weight balance and really good handling.
The lightweight and the fiberglass body mean that this is a car to be driven, not a car to be driven into. If someone hits your door, the only steel is on the other side of you. So nothing is protecting you from that impact. So just don't get hit. So this is the part where I get to talk about shiny bits. There aren't very many, to be honest. We've talked about adds weight, detracts from performance before. Lotus epitomizes that. Their entire brand is, we don't want anything that's going to add weight to the car. So you do have a shiny gas cap. You have these shiny little notches on the back, which is where you can attach a top if you want to do that. The hinges on the trunk are shiny. And of course, the bumpers are painted to be shiny.
Ish.
Ish.
Metal is heavy, so where you don't need it, don't put it.
I do want to show you a fun feature of this car. Windows. There's no roll-up mechanism. They're obviously not electric. These are pull-up windows.
There it goes.
They're very slow because I'm not very tall. I don't have good leverage. There. Driver's side one is faster.
One other downside of the windows, as far as this car, is there's not really much sense in locking it, because when the window's up, I can push it down without ever getting into the car itself. So locks on this car, although they exist, really don't do much.
Like a
Not
platypus.
much security. Yes, like a platypus.
Like a platypus. They
They
don't do much. But I find that very entertaining because it does mean that you have windows that can ascend and descend, but through your own power.
Another part of the success of the shape of this car is how aerodynamic it is. There was a lot of effort to keep it as streamlined as possible, giving it a good top speed, good performance, make it so that a small engine could actually push this car much faster through the air than it would necessarily be otherwise. As we look at the front, you notice that our headlights are covered. We've got a mouth way down here, which is our air inlet, essentially into the radiator itself. Side marker lights, turn signals, and all of that are just kind of tucked here underneath the bumper.
One of the things that makes this car extra cool is that it has flip-up headlights. That's just, automatic style points. Something else you'll notice is how low the car is. I mean, you probably noticed it more when we were standing up. But that gives it a low center of gravity, which also makes it easier to push through the air and not flip it when you're on the track. We have our Lotus emblem on the front.
Which, if you notice, has letters in the center. It's ACBC, which are Colin Chapman's full initials.
They are kind of tied into a really cool decorative monogram. Very British.
So something you will also notice, unlike the vast majority of British cars the 50s and 60s, you don't have wire wheels on this. A big part of that is the fact that the steel wheels are actually lighter. Colin Chapman wanted very light wheels, and so he tended to favor some that might have been a little bit lighter than they should have been. They have a habit of potentially cracking around the bolts holding the wheel on, so you do have to check original Lotus wheels very carefully to make sure that they're actually in good shape. Just a little bit too light to be safe, but faster on the track.
Something else that I think is important to point out, speaking of racing, is that we have another badge, and this is on both sides of the car, right here, that says Lotus World Champions 1963. Lotus used their racing successes to sell their street cars. Because don't you want a lightweight car that can go really fast and imagine yourself racing on the track?
Meanwhile, we have Elan S2 for Series 2. All these badges tended to change through the course of production as they had more race wins to celebrate, as they won things like the World Car Constructor Championships and things like that. They would advertise it on the sides of their cars. Coming around the back end, we have another fiberglass bumper, our license plate, and the lights that they put on these Lotuses. You'll see one little tiny tailpipe sticking out right in the middle. So, from the exhaust system, it's not a big engine. You don't need a big exhaust.
And of course, back here we have a couple more shiny bits. You have the covered lock for the trunk and another Lotus Elan S2 badge, just in case you're seeing it from the back instead of from the side and you're wondering what it is.
Speaking of, let's go ahead and open the trunk. This is one of the things I find annoying about this car, is you have to use the key to open the trunk. You have to move the little cover off the lock, insert the key and turn it, and then pretty much leave the key in, because if I flip this back and try and close it, this hits your bodywork. Not a good thing.
That's not good. No.
So the trunk holds itself open with a really nice, ingenious little spring clip thing here that basically allows it to stay in prop, but doesn't really weigh much. Looking in the trunk, you'll see essentially that there's not a lot in here as far as space. This is not a car for carrying cases of wine, so it's really zero there. However, you wouldn't have too much of trouble tossing in a couple backpacks or maybe a small suitcase if you wanted to go out for a weekend drive. The main thing that we do have in the trunk, however, is our top frame, which we will pull out and lay out, and then we can set it up to show you how all that works. So unlike most cars, it has fixed fiberglass pieces to go above the doors, and then two metal bows. So as you can see, putting the top up is more a case of constructing a top than it is necessarily just like hopping out when it starts raining and getting it prepped and up so that you stay nice and dry. It's about a 3-4 minute process at least if you're very quick at it. Otherwise, 5 to 6 minutes. We probably won't get all the way through it. That said, from here, close the trunk, turn the key back to lock it and pull it out. Let's see what we can do about putting a top up. Okay, so to set up the top, the first thing we have to do is assemble the side frames that go over the windows. And these have a pin on the end that goes in a nice little hole right here. And then it has a pin down below here that you put in a hole in the body and lower it down. Then we take our support bars. This one hooks in the back onto a couple screws that stick out. And then this bar comes in and drops in here. From here, we would take the top, put it over. The front edge pushes into a groove right here. The back gets stretched over, gets hooked on these hooks back here, clip everything down, and now theoretically you're somewhat weather resistant. At this point, you're now thoroughly soaked, but hey, the inside of the car will stay a little bit drier, in theory. That said,
in practicality, you will probably steam up your windows.
And now time for mechanicals. We've done one thing ahead of time in order to make this a little bit easier. And it is part of the design of this car. It is intended that the hood should be able to come off easily. And it mostly just slides on these metal slides here on some nylon screws that sit inside these arcs. When it's fully set up, there should be a couple springs that are right here that actually attach it to the body of the car. We've unhooked the springs ahead of time just to make it easier to do this, as it's kind of a pain to do and not something we wanted to do on camera. That said, here is the engine of this car. We cosmetically restored the outside of this car and the interior. We haven't done anything to the engine bay since we got the car, other than very minor things like replacing these little nylon screws and replacing the springs that were missing when we bought the car. It was a running, driving car, regularly used. It still runs and drives perfectly well. There was no reason to really get in here and start cosmetically changing things or start doing a lot to it for a car that we primarily wanted to go out and drive. So yes, it's not as pretty as the rest of the car, but when we need to rebuild the engine, then we'll address it. Till then, it works just fine as is. It's a 1.6 liter Ford Kent motor, which is a pre-cross flow English Ford engine with a custom Lotus designed front cover and head with the twin cam setup on it that allows it to basically go from being a push rod engine, which is what it originally was, to being an overhead cam twin cam motor. The early Lotuses all ended up having Weber side draft carburetors. Later on, they switched to Strombergs. I don't know exactly why. The Webers are nicer. It also means that you don't have to have a bump in the hood, which later cars had. I think the Weber's a nicer carburetor for these cars, and it really fits in sort of the racing heritage of this. That said, they're a bit more of a pain to tune and set up if you don't know what you're doing, so that may have been part of the reason why. Otherwise, under here, things are largely pretty straightforward. We have an airbox way down here in the front that feeds up through a tube into this fiberglass filter box that then feeds into the carburetors itself. The engine is otherwise pretty straightforward. You've got 4 spark plugs right in the center, typical hemispherical combustion chamber layout. Overall, a really nice design for the engine that absolutely loves to rev. These engines are very, very happy at high RPM. And it's part of very much that sort of race heritage here. Most British cars tend to be happy at about 3,000 RPM. This car really wants to be at 4,000 to 5,000 all the time. And it does beautifully at those RPMs. The emphasis on this car was to add lightness. We do have pop-up headlights. They are operated by vacuum because vacuum is lighter than electrical motors. And so there are little vacuum reservoirs, one for each headlight, that use engine vacuum to pop them up. If your engine isn't running, your headlights don't come up. That's the nature of it. So we have air horns, again, fairly light, fairly loud, fitted down here, along with electric horns on that side for some reason. Brake and clutch reservoir on this side. Not much else to see here. A radiator, things you normally find in an engine compartment. So this car originally would have had a generator. Now it has an alternator. That was a change that the previous owner made. It's not a bad change, honestly, for this. The transmission is a very standard Ford transmission. It was nothing special. It was basically the same type of transmission they were putting in things like the Ford Consul, the Cortina, a bunch of the other English Fords at this time, which is also more or less where the engine's original form came from. You can't see much of the X-frame here looking into the car, but you can see a little bit of it as it runs alongside of the engine. And you'll see that the entire thing is made out of folded sheet metal. This isn't a tubular frame that's been constructed and welded together. This is basically pieces of metal that have been bent at angles and then welded to basically make kind of a box structure that underlies the car itself. It runs down the center of the car with your drive shaft, basically going from the transmission back to the rear end. And the rear end itself is a Ford differential that's been shortened quite a bit to basically have output shafts right at the sides of the differential itself. Power originally was fed from that to the rear wheels via axle shafts that had 2 rotoflex joints in them, which is basically a rubber donut. And it had 2 of these things so that when it would move, it would allow the wheels to move up and down in orientation to the differential and allow that shaft to change angles while still being able to transfer power to the wheels. The downside with that is those rotoflex joints, they do reproduce, but the reproduction ones are terrible. We have since redone this car with modern CV joint axles that basically replace those rotoflexes in order to make it a much more durable, reliable system. The previous owner had done something with welded in U-joints. It was really a mess. It was disastrously poorly done. It kind of threw off the handling of the car. It definitely threw off sort of the way that it drove. So we were very happy to get rid of those. And the more modern CV joint solution is by far the most elegant way to do it while keeping the character of the car very positive. Another big part of what makes this car an incredibly nice driving car is the suspension system. So at front we have double wishbones, sort of typical of what you would find. In the rear we have what is called a Chapman strut, named after, you guessed it, Colin Chapman. There's not really much more to the engine. The original engine was a pre-crossflow. With this head redesign, Colin Chapman made it a cross-flow engine. That means it breathes better. We've got a carburetor set up with 4 barrels feeding in, 1 per cylinder, so nice and easy to balance. From the exhaust side, you have 4 branches to the manifold, all coming together and joining. It is a cast manifold. If I were racing this, that would normally be probably a tubular header, something along that line. But for a street-driven car like this works beautifully well. One other thing you will see is we have our Lotus chassis plate here. And unlike just about every major British manufacturer, all of this is hand-scratched in engraving, labeling all of the details on the car, like the engine number, the unit number, all of the details, essentially. It wasn't a car that was in such mass production that it made sense to set up stamping equipment to stamp out each individual chassis plate uniquely. You aren't building thousands upon thousands of these at once. They're still being hand-built, hand-assembled. And so putting someone there with one little vibrating scribers was probably far cheaper and easier than having someone like go in and manually stamp the things, or having some machine set up to specifically press them out one after the other. Not much left to the mechanicals. It's very simple, very light, very functional, but all built around the idea of good performance. That's what this car lives up to. And for now, I'm gonna just put the hood back on and we'll deal with the springs later. Just comes in, sets in place, rotates down, and clips down. And there we are. Time for Amy in the interior.
So, welcome to the interior. It is rather sparse. Nothing that is not essential, other than the BMW radio, which we did not install. That was the previous owner. However, there are some sort of comfort features. There is a heater. There is a defroster. We have defroster vents up here. That's also where one of the speakers is under there, which is entertaining. It is surprisingly roomy for such a small car. Once you're in, you have a ton of legroom, including in the driver's side, which is why we had to do some accommodations for me. We'll start on the dashboard, which is wood, which is period correct, which is nice. Steering wheel is also wood. This is period correct steering wheel. Got your Lotus symbol in the middle. The steering system, however, is straight out of a Triumph Herald. That's more Lotus using parts that are already available, which was very smart of them. We have one of those too. We'll talk about that another time. Usual gauges on the front: fuel, tach, speedometer, temperature gauge. We have our 2 bonnet locks here, one for each side. You pull those to release the hood. Heater, choke, we're pretty sure. Cigarette lighter, of course. Lights down here, windshield wipers down here. It's pretty simple. We have these 3 switches in here. They do things. They're not labeled. We're not sure what they do. You flip them and then you find out. Once you find the one that's going to do what you want, then you know you're good. One thing that one of these toggles probably turns on is the map light up here. I really like the design of it. It's again, it's very simple, but it's very cool. Very little storage in here. Very little. I have my knitting behind the driver's seat. Behind the passenger seat is the battery, so you don't really want to put things on that. There are a couple of speakers back here. You do have a glove box. No door pockets. You do, however, have an ashtray on each side, because apparently that was important enough to add weight. It will detract from your performance. The center console tray is actually very handy for a modern driver because I put my cell phone in there to help me navigate. We have our fancy little wooden shift knob with the Lotus logo on it, just in case you've forgotten that you're driving a Lotus. The seats are remarkably comfortable, considering how light they are. The bolsters hold you in place very, very well, and they are adjustable. However, it's not like a lever that you can lift. There's no rails. You don't slide it back and forth. You have to unbolt it. There are 2 bolts that hold that in. And there are 4 positions that you can bolt the brackets into. Far back, there's a couple in the middle, and then there's far forward. This is as far forward as it goes, which is not far enough forward for me, which is unfortunate, considering what a lovely tiny car this is. I still get to drive it. You'll get to see how we do that later. I can tilt the seat forward in order to access stuff in the back, but it's pretty easy to access stuff in the back with the top off anyway, so you don't really need to do that. So I'm holding this door because otherwise it will swing fully open and I won't be able to demonstrate what I'm about to demonstrate. This is the door latch, and you pull it to open it, and you push it in to lock. This little lever also locks the door. However, as we have pointed out before, locks are kind of useless on this car. And that's it for the interior. So now we're going to take this car where it really wants to be, on the road.
So this is a car I've been wanting to do on the channel for quite some time. What's held it up is the fact that we repainted it and then redid the interior, which we finally got done this summer, and now we get to take it out and drive what I think is probably one of the single greatest open 2-seat British sports cars ever made. The Lotus Elan is just absolutely a joy to drive. It is so light in steering, it is so nimble, so quick, so responsive. It just feels absolutely natural as how it communicates with me as a driver. I just love this thing. We decided that the best thing to do with this car is take it up to the Aufderheide Scenic Byway, which is in the Cascade Mountains in Oregon. It's the end of summer right now, so it's one of the last great chances to go out and drive this fantastic road. It is a road that basically connects between 2 roads that cross the Cascades, runs kind of north and south for the most part, but very low traffic through some beautiful scenery, through a bunch of forests. Unfortunately, we are dealing with, again, the fact that Oregon does have forest fires. So there have been fires that have come through this area, but at the same time, right now, the smoke is clear. This area itself is pretty good, and this is just such a wonderful road to kind of go out and explore. So Colin Chapman built this car with very, very few things that you could do to change the suspension or anything along that line. His entire idea was, if I give you the ability to tweak it, you're going to just screw it up. And he really did set this up just about perfectly. And you feel it. It handles bumps beautifully with the independent suspension. It goes over the road beautifully. It's nice and smooth handling. The steering is just so light and precise. I can steer entirely with fingertips. I can steer with 2 fingers and steer just fine. It takes hardly any effort to turn the steering wheel, and you don't have to turn it very far to do pretty much anything.
And I love the fact that this is a sports car. It's so smooth. I mean, I'm sitting here knitting. The seats are helping to hold me where I need to stay, but it's just fun without being frantic.
Yes, the transmission's great, the brakes are great, the car shifts well, it stops well, it handles well. If there were one thing I'd complain about, I mean, the gear ratios are really good in this car in general, but because it is set up for really more this kind of driving, I would love it if it had a little bit of a higher top speed, which you can change the gear ratios, the final drive ratio in this, and definitely get it dialed in for speed. And these make fantastic race cars from that end. But this one is really set up to be sort of the street configuration. And so it really tops out happily at about 70, 75 miles an hour, turning about 5,000 RPM. So now the engine's very happy at high RPM. So it really does feel like a sports car. Very unusual for British cars. It feels a lot more Italian that way. You basically sit up in the power band most of the time that you're driving.
Also, the engine note. We were talking about this earlier today. The engine note is so unexpected out of a car this small.
Yeah.
It's just so rumbly. I love it.
And it doesn't have a big exhaust pipe. It doesn't have like anything beyond what actually the stock exhaust was on this car. This is basically a stock exhaust system, but it has a really nice exhaust note and just drives beautifully. I mean, the car weighs 1,500 pounds, approximately. Some are slightly lighter, some are slightly heavier, but about 1,500 pounds. And then it puts out 105 horsepower in this trim. Later cars did even more. They had bigger valves and they had improved engines when you start getting into the Elan Sprints. But this stock is 105 horsepower. But when you actually do the math, that gives you still a really good weight to horsepower ratio, and means that it just drives beautifully. It has good acceleration where you want it. Just fantastic on these windy little bits of road. No problems with turns. I can kind of accelerate through them. I can carry momentum through a lot of this. It's just really a fun, technical road to drive in a car that is built to enjoy these kinds of roads. It's one of those cars that you drive. You're coming up on the turn, you let off the throttle. As you come through the corner, you get back on the throttle and just kind of accelerate through it. A little bit of braking coming in just to set the nose and accelerate out. And then the same thing again and again as you wind through here. Just beautiful, beautiful drive.
And I'm just really glad the sun came out. I was a little bit worried about that this morning.
Yeah, it's a bit overcast when we left Eugene, but now that we're up in the mountains and everything, this is just turning absolutely gorgeous. The nice thing about the power of the engine is I don't spend a lot of time shifting as I'm going through this. I can just rev nicely and just cruise along.
And this is the kind of car that encourages you to have fun.
Yes. It's also the kind of car that it's very easy to get pulled over in.
It's easy to go
it likes
fast.
going quick. It's so easy to go fast in. Certainly easier to go faster than the SUV ahead of us.
Yeah, I suppose they also have the right to enjoy the beautiful scenery.
Yes.
It's funny to think about cars' personalities. You know, some cars are a little bit more finicky about how you drive them.
Yep.
Some cars are just like, whatever, let's go. I feel like this car is just, there's a lot of joy in this car.
Yes. I mean, this is the car that inspired the design of the Miata more than anything else. The original Miata had a lot of influence, according to the designer, based on the Lotus Elan. You can see that. It's hard to beat this perfection. I mean, this car has its downsides. It is not a particularly safe car in many ways, partly because it is so light, partly because it is almost entirely fiberglass. The only steel in the middle of the car is underneath the transmission tunnel, essentially. It's a folded X-frame, so there really is very little structure here aside from that holding the car together. It helps keep it really light, it helps keep it really nimble, does not help keep it particularly safe.
And this is also a car that, while it's fine on the freeway, it is very small and very low.
Yes.
So you have to drive carefully and make sure that people can see you as much as possible.
Absolutely. I mean, it has the advantage that it's nimble and makes it easier to get out of the way if you absolutely have to. And I've had at least one or two incidents in our other Lotus that was like that. So this is one of the few cars in the collection that we have duplicates of. When this car came up for sale, I'm like, you know, this is one of the perfect cars to drive. This would be a fantastic one to have his and hers examples of. I already had a Lotus Elan Type 26. That's actually an earlier car than this one. It's sort of a Series 1.5. It has some of the features that were unique to the earliest of the cars, but then also some of the features like this one. It's a right-hand drive car. It's a former race car that had been converted back into being a street car. So it still has the high-performance engine, still has a very grabby high-performance clutch in it, and it's a bit more of a handful to drive than this one, but not in a bad way at all. This was a very well cared for, long-term owned car. The previous owner bought the car in the mid-70s, and they bought it used, of course, and I didn't get it from them until about 5 years ago, 4 years ago, something like that. And this was one that I'm like, okay, this is such a great car. I would love to just have Amy in one and me in one, and we just go out for a drive together. And so There are a few other cars like that in the collection, but only a few that we've really done sort of his and hers. So this is Amy's car, technically, out of the two.
And we figured that since it's not a big car, that it would be perfect for me to drive as a not very big person. Well,
the one thing with Lotus is that it's like, well, seat adjustments, add weight and detract for performance. So we're going to minimize the way that you adjust the seat, and to adjust the seat, you unbolt it. And the downside of unbolting the seat is you only have really 4 positions you can put it in. And right now we're in the forwardmost position. I can drive the car this way. Amy can't without help. But we were not going to let her not drive this car. So she gets help.
we brought accommodations.
We are accommodating Amy by putting a giant pillow behind her so that she at least gets the experience of driving this car.
Yes. It's not elegant, but it means I can drive.
Yep.
And for me, that's what's important. We are brainstorming more elegant options to try and get it so that I can drive more cars in the collection.
Yeah, we might be able to adjust the way the seat mounts or something in order to move it even further forward and give Amy just that extra bit of room that she needs. Or lack of room that she needs, as the case may be.
Extra bit of room behind me.
Yeah, but once that's happened, then she can drive this pretty much whenever she wants. As is, she can drive it with a giant pillow.
Yes.
There you go. Okay. And clutch in quick, shift to second, and clutch quick out. There you go. Because we've got a torquey motor, it'll handle it. Okay.
Okay, just gonna take a second to get
Get used to the car.
accustomed.
Don't get up to third.
All right. So, it's easy to go fast and feel like you're going fast.
Yeah.
Well, this is already fun. So, I have wanted a Lotus Elan ever since I saw one on the Avengers. No, not that Avengers. The original Avengers. The British one with Diana Rigg as Mrs. Peel. And she drove a Lotus Elan. And hers was silver blue, but it looked white. Because it was black and white.
And then color later.
Yes, but she was just awesome. And I loved her car. She always looked so cool driving it. And so I said, I want one of those. I had no idea how truly glorious driving one would feel like. And now that I'm in it, wow, this is great. It is definitely made for people taller than me, as most cars are. I think part of that is they wanted to make sure that taller racing gentlemen could drive this car. But regardless, it is fun. It drives beautifully, it steers beautifully, it does have very precise, very responsive steering, which I love. I also love the fact that I'm in third and I'm slowing down, I'm being cautious because we've got pedestrians around here. And the car is like, sure, you can slow down that much. That's fine. You don't need to downshift.
What's the nice thing with spending most of your time up in the higher end of the power band on this car, where it's the happiest, is that frankly it gives you a pretty wide range of speeds that you can drive at in most gears.
Yes. It just purrs. I love the sound of this engine. I am enjoying this road. I am not driving it as spiritedly as Alex, but a lot of that is, this is my first time driving this car.
And here we're driving over gravel,
Yes.
and the suspension's great.
Yeah, and it doesn't kick up a lot of gravel, which is nice.
Our modern Mini would be hell on this.
Oh God, yeah. And I love
Run
that
flat
car.
tires and everything.
See, and now it's just like, okay. This is also a very communicative car. It kind of speaks to you. It tells you what it wants to do and will happily do what you want to do. And I have only been in this car for a few minutes and I am comfortable and I love it. I could ride in this car for hours.
Absolutely.
I could probably drive this car for hours.
I mean, seats have great side bolsters. They're very typical Lotus seats. You see them in other Lotus cars and things as well, but they're a really nice, comfortable, very light, very simple seat.
Well, and especially considering that they don't have a lot of padding.
No, padding adds weight, but they are very supportive.
Yes.
They're not hard at all, they're just really sort of perfect.
I'm getting on the brakes a little bit on some of these curves, and I love the fact that the car's just like, that's fine, that's great. Whatever you need to do. Again, I anthropomorphize cars a lot, but this one feels like, I just want you to have a good time. Let's just go have a good time together.
It feels very natural to be behind the wheel of this car.
Yes. It's just such a pleasure. Such a pleasure to drive this.
You can have a car like this that just responds so well, handles so well.
The balance is
so perfectly
fabulous.
balanced, perfectly set up. Ideal suspension, ideal handling, very good gearbox, very nice engine. And it doesn't need to have 8 million horsepower. It doesn't need to be giant. It doesn't need a V8. It is based off the fact that a light car and a nimble car is far more enjoyable to drive than a heavy car with lots of power.
And, you know, some cars are fun and some cars are enjoyable, but this one puts a smile on my face in a way that a lot of other cars don't. High delight score from me on this one.
Absolutely.
Taking it where it goes, just driving it like I stole it. Here it comes, all I know is it's about to get real good.
Well, now we're back from that truly glorious drive, and now it's time for the Haugland Score.
Here's how it works.
Alex and I have individually rated the car in 5 categories, each with a rank of 0 to 10. Then we add our scores together to give us the final Haugland score.
After we combine our scores, the results go up on the board.
So for performance, I gave it a 9. It handles beautifully, it accelerates beautifully, the brakes work really well, it is a joy to drive. It does everything you want.
So I also gave it a 9. The only reason I didn't give it a 10 is because I would love it if it were a little bit more long-legged than it is. It's a car that really, right now, the way it's configured, caps out at about 65, 70 miles an hour at a comfortable speed. That said, it is one of the most perfect driver's cars in the world ever. And I'm not the only one who said that. It's frequently made lists of like the top 10 driver cars of all time and things like that. So a lot of people agree with me on that.
And so do I.
For styling, I gave it an 8. I really do like the styling on this car, and 8's a pretty good score in a lot of ways. It comes down to the fact that it is very clean lines. It is a very elegant shape. It has very little in the way of extra frills and things that seem out of place. Nothing seems really wrong with the styling of this car.
I gave it an 8.5. For very similar reasons, gets an extra half point for the pop-up headlights because, you know, that...
Because they're cool.
Because they're cool, TM. But also, it's just a lovely car. There's nothing missing and there's nothing extra. So for drivability, because it's daily drivability, I gave it a 7.75. This car is wonderful, but not incredibly practical. Very little trunk room. Cannot take that grocery shopping. Can't take it out in the rain. Difficult to repair.
Are you sure it gets to 7.75?
Well, I suppose I could take it down to a 6.75. Maybe. I mean, I really...
You're sitting here listing everything wrong with it.
Well, it is. There's a lot that makes it not practical as a daily driver, and yet at the same time, I want to drive it every day. So maybe 7.75 is a little aspirational. Let's take that down to 6.75.
I actually gave it a 4.5. And a lot of that is that it really is not a practical car to drive in everyday situations, from many points of view of safety, from dealing with rain, dealing with traffic, dealing with the fact that I'm in a tiny car amongst a world of semi-trucks and SUVs. But if I had my daily commute being the road that we're driving it on for this episode, I probably would love to try and drive it every day. For significance, I gave this car a 9. Although, yeah, I'll leave it at a 9. I could almost go to 10 because this is the car that really put Lotus on the map as building road cars. This is the car that really defined what a British roadster could be. It is the car that inspired the Miata. It's the car that really sort of set the standard of what a perfect driver's car can be. There are very, very few cars still today that I think top how well this car drives.
I gave it a 9 as well. I would, for all those reasons, also because of the way that the structure is designed with just that very, very minimal frame. The Lotus is also one of the reasons why I love the Miata and want to own one someday. The one with the flip-up headlights, of course.
Because they're cool.
Because they're cool TM. But it's the fact that this inspired that, and the designer of the Miata said in words that he was inspired by this car. That also makes it very significant in the future of cars generally, not just within Lotus or even just British cars. So for Delight, I gave it an 8.5. Even though I had to have a pillow in order to safely drive the car, I had so much fun. I felt like everyone we came across also loved it. It's a very distinctive car in its silhouette and so on. And so I felt like it deserved that score, at least.
And I gave it an 8 for kind of similar reasons. This is one of the most delightful cars to drive, but it's also a car that people do see and recognize. It is a car that does have a following. It's a car that really sort of defined a lot of the culture of British cars. And there are people who have watched things like The Avengers who see it and it's like, Emma Peel. It just really is an iconic car.
All right, we've done the math, and that gives us a final score of 80.25 for our 1965 Lotus Type 26 Elan. So that puts it in 5th place, just above our Alfa Romeo Montreal and just below our Lancia Aurelia.
So I think that's actually really appropriate. I mean, the Lancia Aurelia does not drive as well as this car does. That said, the Lancia Aurelia has its own unique history as one of the first GT cars, being the first car with a V6 engine, rear transaxle, things like that. There's a lot of things that make that car particularly interesting too. And the Montreal is a fun car to drive, but again, that was also the first one we did, and I think we were a little bit aspirational in how we scored it. That said, that score stands because we did it, and that's the way this works.
But even thinking about that, the fact that this is above the Montreal, after I have now driven over 30 cars in our collection, now I have something to compare it to, and it still beat the Montreal.
It really is truly a great car.
It really is.
I think that wraps up another episode of Everyday to Exotic. Please like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you like, what you hate. Are we completely wrong? Is this the best car ever? Is the how dare you rank this wherever we put it? That is absolutely valid. Let us know.
And tell all your friends whether you loved it or hated it, and make them watch it and see if they agree with you.
Tell us if there are things we missed. Tell us if there are things that we really should have covered that we didn't get to. This really is something where I want to have a community, where I want to have your input and what you're sharing. It really adds to the experience for everyone, including us.
Did you own a Lotus Elan? Did your friend own a Lotus Elan? Tell us the story, because that's most of the fun, in my opinion, other than driving these cars, is hearing about how they connect with other people's memories.
We've got more coming this season, and until then, bye-bye.
Bye! That's good. It's all good.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.